And we're welcoming, hey folks, right now, this is Johnny Harris. You already know, the internet's busiest hipster. And we are welcoming Johnny Harris into our homes, ladies and gentlemen. He had a really good video last time around. And I believe that this is going to be another incredible video. An incredible Johnny Especial. Okay, I believe him. I believe that it's going to be good. And I'm excited. Let's welcome him to our homes. His home looks like a Squarespace template. Yeah.
Hate the news.
You barely talked about the news, brother. Okay, it's been 3 hours. And also, fuck you. Okay, yesterday was supposed to be no news day, and I did all news day. So guess what? Suck my dick. How about that? Is that good? You like that? Is that what you wanted from me? Is it weird that you were my gay awakening? No, it's not weird. I hear that from my curious homies all the time.
Brainwashed by the mainstream media.
Santa just is white. Jesus was a white man too.
He wrote a sentence ending with a brand new word.
Yeah, Jesus. Motherfucking Jesus with the living in fucking Palestine in that region. That's the dude. Can you imagine Jesus from Yeshua, Middle Eastern as fuck? He's white. That is such cope, dude. Is actually Syria. Yeah. Well, listen. This notion that a brown ass motherfucker, you're white, you're from the Middle East. Bitch, I'm from Turkey. I got like Greeks and shit all over me. We got Slavs in my bloodline. Like, it just, there's so much shit going on. It's the Ottoman Empire. We're talking about a time that predates that by a fuckload when dudes were brown, okay? They were fucking brown, dude. You're wilding out if you think that they were fucking pale and white down there.
The president and a small group of people know exactly what he meant.
Seems like a weird title for me to use because I'm a journalist. At least that's what I think I am. I worked at a journalistic institution. I just did a piece at the New York Times. Can you call me a journalist? I'm a journalist, right? Now I'm feeling insecure. Okay, so whatever. I'm a journalist, but I kind of hate the news. Let me explain.
CNN breaking news.
Tonight, it all comes down to this.
So let's just
How did that
first
happen?
define what the news is or should be. The news, or the press, or the fourth estate, this sort of sacred thing, is meant to be a magnifying glass on our society. It's meant to look at the things that are really important, to make people stand accountable, to highlight the issues that you should be thinking about when you're voting or going about your day-to-day life. It's meant to give you important information about things like, I don't know, pandemics.
Clearly, Nickelodeon is pushing a global warming agenda.
In short, it's meant to keep the people informed and aware of what is important in the world. But as a news consumer myself, and as someone who wants to be informed and to understand how the world works, I find that the news less and less and less actually helps me do that.
It is not
But
the
now you're
newspaper
peddling
and-
in. You're
it's not
now, but then
you
you're
brought it up.
peddling in
It
these
is-
dishonesties.
So I've been thinking about this, and I want to share it with you. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I hate the news. Number 1, the news often tells you what isn't actually happening in the world. There's this Onion article that just sums it up so well. 0.0003% of things that happen actually matter. Oftentimes we look at the news and we see crazy things that are happening around the world. If there is a mass homicide, that will be national news tomorrow morning. If there's a terrorist attack around the world, that will be national news tomorrow morning. If a prominent politician says something really embarrassing, that will be national news tomorrow morning.
What's the naughtiest thing you ever did?
I have to confess, when me and my friends sort of used to run through the fields of wheat, the farmers weren't too pleased about that.
What all these things have
Really, dude?
in common is that they don't happen very often. They're super rare. They don't teach us anything about how the world actually works. They teach us about how the world doesn't work and how sometimes it does. The outliers, the aberrations. My big problem with this is that someone who reads the news every day and uses it as their gateway into the world will often walk away with a completely delusional version of how the world works. They will assume that terrible things happen more often than they actually do. Our view of the world is at stake here. When the information available to us is the stuff that doesn't happen very often, the stuff that's actually an aberration from the norm, we get a distorted view of how the world works. Number 2, the news has become way too fun.
Meeting with a pirate? No problem.
Tonight, President Donald Trump fighting for a second term as a deadly pandemic gets worse.
You know what? This is the Congress of the United States.
My old colleague Carlos Maza has thought a lot about how fun the news has become. I
Hey.
called him up and we chatted about it. How are you?
I know, it's good to see your face. You see, for as long as we've had corporate news in America, is that we have a product that is trying to meet two very different objectives, or two very different incentives.
What Carlos explained to me that was really helpful was that the news has two opposing incentives. The first incentive is what I talked about at the beginning of this video, which is to inform the people, to teach you what you should care about, to give you a framework for understanding the world, for highlighting important information that the public should know. But then there's this other incentive.
Corporate media is trying to sell you a product, and they sell you a product by making you think you need as much of it as humanly possible all the time. So the newscast should be maybe an hour every day and then you're done, like go do your thing. You have this other incentive though, which is why you have a corporate media environment that is like always breaking. There's always a new thing that you have to worry about. So you have this basically impossible impasse of a product that you should not really need that much and serves a specific function being run by companies that want you to need it all the time.
I am not distracting. What I am pointing out,
for over a year and a half.
I haven't been doing that.
The
What I've
hell
been
you
doing
haven't.
What this does is it incentivizes programming that is optimized to appeal to our senses, whether it's fear-based sensationalism or whether it's flashy graphics, article titles that are a little bit clickbaity. The economic incentive that is built into news makes it really difficult for news to honor that first incentive.
I called him a moron, and then I modified that word with a vulgar Anglo-Saxon term that is also intelligible in Dutch.
And instead to prioritize entertainment and false feelings of this is important or this.
Oh my god. That was fun. It was fun.
This is scary.
This is CNN Breaking News.
It seems like a really dangerous thing to be so subject to economic forces. Okay, my number 3 is that the news tricks you into feeling informed. For a long time, I read the news every single day. I would go on and read multiple different outlets, and I would feel that day like, check, okay, I believe that I'm an informed, smart person, and I've just sort of confirmed that belief. Because there's this sort of like glorification of the person who's like really up on the daily news. What I've learned is that that's actually not the case.
A lot of people just check out, and that's a legitimate response. Like if the town crier in your village was constantly screaming 10,000 horrific things at you from other villages that you don't live in, after all, you'd stop really meaningfully listening to it because your brain cannot sort out what catastrophe is real and meaningful and what you shouldn't respond to. So you have this like kind of ambient anxiety always that makes it so that your brain becomes numb to the drug. You stop really caring about what you'd engage in.
Spending a lot of time chasing the news cycle is a lot of mental energy. It's a lot of mental energy that could be applied to understanding how the world actually works. Consuming things that actually shed light on important issues like policy or, I don't know, historical trends that maybe are not as flashy and reactive, but are way more indicative on how the world works, how things get done, how change gets made in a society. Instead, because of this entertainment incentive, the news doesn't actually end up being super informative. You're not actually learning a lot about anything other than what happened that day, who said what to whom, and why, and then how a billion people reacted to why that person said whom. And it's like, it becomes a giant gossip fest almost.
Here's the problem. I think what he's trying to say is that the news lacks materialist analysis. What he's basically describing is literally what I offer to you. And despite the fact that I am a himbo myself and am reactive and take up the more enjoyable elements, more enjoyable aspects of news broadcast to make it as palatable as possible, I literally give you the one area that the news refuses to cover. And that is a larger picture and a more comprehensive understanding of why things occur the way that they do. We have fun. We like to have fun, obviously. We do reactions all day long. But ultimately, every single time I describe to you why something is happening, I also give you a perspective that the news media is basically built around avoiding. My analysis is at a diametrically opposed to the analysis of news media, because the media, for the most part, is an institution created exclusively to protect the status quo. You can be super progressive and ultimately be like, oh no, capitalism is still great, blah, 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 and like totally miss out on the fundamental problems. I would go so far as to say that Cenk even misses out on some of these fundamentals because of his liberalism, because of how much he loves being a liberal. Okay? Sometimes I'd say your CIA React was the best one in a while. I love that video. That was a great video.
Binge watch like the Rockford Files. Netflix.
Or Modern Love.
That's terrible.
No, it was really good.
Modern Love makes me sick.
How about Person of Interest?
Ooh, I like that. That's a good show.
Can I say something now?
Yeah. No.
It's almost built to appeal more to our gossip impulse than to our desire to learn about the world. The epitome of this is this sort of like pseudo debate format that a lot of TV news takes part in.
The 5-person talking head panel, you have a moderator who pretends to be relatively neutral, and then 4 commentators, 2 from the left, 2 from the right, who are arguing about whatever the topic of the day is. That format is a straight rip from ESPN. Like, those formats are a carbon copy of the arguing and almost like reality TV model that has been used in sports media for a while.
This is not journalism. This looks like journalism because it looks like there's a robust debate going on.
Stop it. You're abusing power right now on air.
The funniest part about it is that this is not even that entertaining. If you notice, like, we rarely watch these highlights. Whenever I'm watching CNN and whenever I'm relying on CNN and shit, we often just look at like actual interviews of people that I myself would not have the opportunity to be able to interview. That's where they're good. Like, this shit sucks. I don't know if boomers even enjoy it, really, for that matter. It's like, I think it'd be more entertaining if someone was just like describing an issue. I guess, like, maybe it's entertaining. I mean, I'm not even saying debates aren't entertaining. Debates can be, but this format is silly. It's like, you got fucking annoying neoliberal on the one side, you got reactionary conservative on the other side, and they're just basically trying to throw out as many talking points in like a 2-minute window as possible. At least debates on the internet are like 3-hour long debates where, you know, there's ups and downs and shit like that. It's a little bit more entertaining that way on the internet.
Stop filibustering her.
But journalism is about evidence. It's about going out and gathering evidence and scrutinizing it and then putting it together and presenting it to a reader. In this sensationalized news segment, no evidence is being examined or scrutinized or cross-examined.
It serves no educational function. Regardless of what you think about politics, watching two people argue is not informative because it's too fast-paced, it triggers your tribal defenses, you're not gonna be open-minded, and there's no time to examine evidence. No matter how long that fight goes on for, you are not gonna learn anything meaningful from it. All will happen is that you will leave thinking, God, I really hate the other side, and God, my side is so right. It's the opposite of what journalism should be doing.
You don't leave a debate like this any more informed. All you do is leave a debate like this with like an understanding that your side is right, the other side is wrong, and like how awesome that like the people who represented your side.
What about the issue is? I didn't say I wouldn't attend these debates, motherfucker. Obviously, I want to fucking take advantage of these debates to own someone and make them look pathetic and silly as best as I can while simultaneously fucking increasing my own personal brand. The difference between me and other debate lords is that debate lords make it seem like you are arriving at a fundamental truth through a constant back and forth, like putting your ideas to the test. Like your ideas, your premises are your weapons, and you're constantly fighting with them. And then ultimately you arrive at the fundamental truths of the world. That's bullshit. That's just fucking silly bitch shit. Okay, you're a fucking silly bitch if you legitimately think that. I'm sorry. It's super delusional to think that. Okay, someone who is more rhetorically gifted than a person who is actually correct and is like legitimately correct and even more knowledgeable than the other person will always lose to the rhetorically gifted person. Okay, you can have an anxious fucking climate change scientist go up against Ben Shapiro and look like a clown while doing so. That doesn't mean Ben Shapiro is right. It just means Ben Shapiro is better at talking. He's better at trapping people into logical fallacies, which he then turns around and rationalizes. Okay, that's how it works. Now, while that is the case, does that mean that there is no utility in debates? Of course there's utility in debates. It's, first of all, it's pseudo-intellectual sparring, but it's also a good way to draw up a big crowd. It's also a good way to expose people from time to time for having like idiotic points of view. Right? Like, so there is utility to debates. It's just that like centering your entire worldview around debates is silly as fuck. And then you find yourself looking for that bloodlust rather than develop a coherent, cohesive worldview, develop actual moral grounding to launch your political ideology off of. You don't do that, and that's why you find yourself blowing away with whichever breeze. You go from Sargon to another person when another person owns Sargon, and then from another person you go to another person, and your ideology shifts. It jumps from one person to another, over and over again. Felix from Trouble said that culture and politics are now kind of the same. Instead of reacting to the new movie, we react to the new political event, and that's how we interact with friends and society. There's no class analysis. There's no material game. Politics is a new cultural zeitgeist. It's a brilliant take. I agree. If debates were actually as important as mainstream media likes to present them as, then everyone would want to be involved in debate teams growing up. Yet you are a part of that? I mean, I have never lied about my interest in debates. Like, my interest in debate revolves around how much it can help me. At the time I was, and I still sometimes get called into debate notorious conservatives, famous conservatives. Of course I'm going to fucking take that advantage. And of course I'm going to try to get better rhetorically so that I can become a better speaker all overall. It's the difference is that I admit that. Like, that's the difference. I don't run around making it seem like I don't run around making it seem like debates are where, you know, intellectual giants clash. Because I'm not a silly bitch. You lie when you debated Charlie Kirk about your progress in Not Light Soul thrice. Wow, good one, dude.
We're like so hard.
I would argue that the left is great at stoking the fears of the American people more so than the right, and that, in fact, if you had more centrist approach, you might get that. Networks like CNN tend to tote eggs and never display 90 ideas each day, but rather only 12. Fuck you.
On the opposing side, which is a super awesome impulse if you're like in a football stadium watching your favorite team play. But when we're talking about like real issues and real policy, this sports framework of commentary and fighting is not very useful because it tricks people into thinking that they're informed, that they're like, oh, I get the issues now because I watched that debate. But instead, all they were was entertained.
I'm tired of having this discussion over and over again.
So those are my 3 reasons for why I hate the news. But let me just say one thing, which is there is still amazing journalism being done right now. Really important journalism that is communicating important evidence about important ideas that truly can inform you about how the world works. The incentives of this industry make it harder and harder for that journalism to happen. But the journalists who are out there collecting evidence, reporting on really difficult things, talking to lots of experts, trying to piece together all of this information so that they can inform the public, those are the people who are doing this work, in spite of the entertainment, corporate, 24-hour news cycle that has sort of taken over what news should be. And what I really believe, and I learned this working at Vox, a place that really focused on context and explainer journalism, there's a demand for it. There will always be a demand, a voyeuristic demand for seeing terrible things happen. There will always be a demand for entertainment and shouting matches. But
why does everyone here hate Vox? It's like, I mean, it's a lot of, they hire a lot of neoliberal trash. Like, they have some good journalists, but a lot of them left. Like, I like, obviously I'm friends with Carlos Maza. I really like his videos. I was a fan of Jeff Stein, who went over to WAPO. I still rely on them though. I think that, oh, and their YouTube channel is awesome. That's all I watch. I think it's more so their perspective that is what we are critiquing here. Seems dumb to disregard outlets altogether with no regard to what the article itself is. I completely agree with you. I mean, with some notable exceptions. Like, obviously, fucking, you know, like the Gateway Pundit is not something I'm going to take seriously. Daily Wire is not an outlet that I will ever take seriously.
I believe that most people want to understand. They want to understand why this certain policy will work and the other one won't. They want to understand the real debates, the philosophical and political debates that are happening in our system. They want to understand how our system works or doesn't work. And if only our news industry could focus more on that desire to understand, instead of this facade of information that is really just entertainment.
The media is shoving this down your throat. By the way, our ratings are great.
Shouldn't they, for a period of time, not go on the attack? They were fear-based. Fear-based.
They were fear-based.
Hate in teleprompter.
Can you give us a question? Don't be rude. You are fake news.
All right, well, that was a little bit of a rant. Just taking some deep breaths. Glad I got that out of my system. If you want a place to put your rants and thoughts.
Squarespace ad. Right? God damn, dude. The entire fucking rest of the video was an ad. Yeah, it was all right. This was mid. What's your opinion on the guy we're watching now? I love Johnny Harris. I think he's a pretty smart dude. He's very clearly a super talented editor. He is also